Hey everybody, it's DJ Jer, and we are going to do a little shop time video on ShowXPress. I've had a lot of people asking about ShowXPress and how to do programming with DMX. We started out with the simple control boards, the obeys and things like that, and those work great for simple things, beginner things if you're doing just uplighting. But if you want to get a little bit more advanced into working with moving heads and creating sequences and textures and patterns, the best thing to do is use the software. And I guess I might be partial to the software. I'm not telling people that using a DMX board is not a good idea. I'm just going to show you from the ShowXPress side of things. So to start things off, what I want to do is just show you a little bit about what the control panel is all about. When you double click on your icon, the control board is going to show up. Now, one of the things you need to see is this right here where it says no universe found. Basically, I don't have my dongle box plugged into my computer. Now, you have to also understand that you can play with the software even if you do not have the dongle or if you do not have the actual hardware unit. You can download the program free off of Chauvet's website. You can start playing around with it. You can create all of your things. And then once you have everything created, you can actually hook up that dongle box and you can run your show. So again, you don't need to buy the box right off the bat. Get used to the software, play around with the software, but don't get overwhelmed with the software. And that's exactly why I created this video, is because I want to show everybody a little bit more about what ShowXPress has and how to utilize it to its best potential, so you don't get overwhelmed with it. So to start off, when you open up the control board, this is what you're going to see. This right here, DJ Jer, that is actually the universe that I use, or the light show that I use for my weddings and events and things like that. So it's going to have my specific fixtures in there. Now, you have these different icons on the bottom, and those are the icons and also the options that I want to talk about, just to kind of get you up to par on what each one of these options do. Now, the setup is going to be where you basically start from scratch. This is where you're putting your fixtures in, you're adding your fixtures, you're importing your fixtures, and you're creating the actual light show by adding the fixtures that you're going to be using out in the field. You add those into the setup, and then it's going to create the DMX addresses for you. The nice thing is you just drop and drag, and it adds the fixtures into your setup, and it'll automatically give them the DMX number that it needs to run in that sequence. And I'm going to show you, when we go into the setup part of it, I'm going to show you a little bit more about what I'm talking about with that. So again, this is kind of the starting point. You're going to want to go through the setup, and once you go through the setup, then you can go into the next part, which is the editor. The editor is basically the control board. That's where you actually control the DMX channels. So if you have an RGB slim par, all you need to do is have that loaded into your setup. Once it's loaded into your setup, it's going to show up in your editor in this little box up here. And like I said, when we get into editor, I'll show you a little bit more details on that. So once you're in editor, the little switches like you would see on a DMX board, as you can kind of see them right here, these switches are actually the same 256 channel numbers that you would use on a regular DMX board, and that's how you control your lights to do what you want them to do per channel. Now, the pixels is going to be for a little bit more advanced. Obviously, we're all at our different levels, and we're not going to get too much into pixels. Basically, pixels, this section here is more for pixel mapping and creating different backdrops using like core fixtures and different lights that have pixel mapping. So with this, you can actually spell out text using the core fixtures and things like that. So again, a little bit more advanced than what we're going to talk about or discuss in the first section of videos. Now, the live is basically the live buttons that you would use at a live show, and that's exactly why they call it live. So if you're at your performance, this is where the buttons are going to be used to turn on your lights to red, make them do an XY movement. Once you created the programming in editor, when you save your scene in editor, you import it into live, and then that's where you push the buttons for your lights to do what you want them to do. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through some of these tutorials. The last icon is the 3D view. So for instance, if you're working in a club and you're using the software, you can actually create your exact club by putting your lights up into the ceiling, putting them on totems, you know, placing them kind of throughout the room. And then when you go and play the sequences, you're actually going to see what that's going to look like in 3D live view. You'll be able to see exactly what your lights will be doing at your shows. Now, again, it's for a little bit more advanced because you actually have to go in, and it's like a CAD program. You're basically placing the lights throughout the room in the 3D program as if you were actually at your show. So again, a little bit more advanced, but your main things that you're going to use, especially to get started, is the first thing you're going to use is your setup. Then you're going to go into your editor to create your scenes, and then you're going to go into live mode to actually play your scenes. Now, those are the three main ones. The other thing I want to show you in the control board is when you right-click, you'll actually see this drop-down box. Now, settings, this is where you actually go in, and this is where you have many different light shows. If you've created different light shows, you can see we have some for the core fixtures. I've got one for one of my DJ guys. I've got some for the Chauvet Freedoms. We also have one per event. So Pro-Am Jam, that's a big event we do every year. We did some lighting that we programmed ahead of time. And again, every light scene that you, or every light show that you do might be different depending on what fixtures you're using. So this is where you can save new light shows. You can create new light shows. You can export new light shows. The control board is going to allow you to do that. So when I talk about importing light shows, I can actually create light shows in my computer. And I do this all the time when I'm on a flight. I'll pull out my computer and I'll start creating light shows. And then I can import those light shows from another computer. So when I'm done working on them on my computer, I just hit on the export a light show. And then when I open it up, or I take that file, I put it on another computer, and then I open up ShowXPress, and then I import a light show from one of my other computers or one of my other areas that I created that light show at. These other ones are, again, a little bit more advanced than what we're going to go over at this point. Midi patching, basically that's where you can actually use a MIDI board instead of using the live program. You can use a MIDI patch to actually control all the sequences and the scenes that you've created in your program. It's got the manuals here. I'm not much of a manual person. I'm more of a hands-on, and I like videos. And that's exactly why I'm creating this video, is because I want to make sure that I can help as many people as possible. So this is a quick rundown on what the control board is to get started. This is basically video 1 of 300, I'm going to say. It's kind of that starting, what each icon is. Because if you just jump into this, you might get a little overwhelmed. So again, just want to be here to help everybody out and answer questions. So feel free to contact me, Jeremy at djjer.com. Thanks for watching Shop Time, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And again, we're going to get a little more in depth on how to create or how to import your fixtures into ShowXPress. Thanks for watching Shop Time. We'll talk to you soon.